So this is the Chief Examiner's report. I assume you all look at Chief Examiner's reports before you sit your exam, do you? Yes. If not, you should be doing. They're really, really useful. So here you can see this is how well students do, and green being good, red being not so good. And you can see here the ones students do well on are, get my pen to work, task 1 and task 5. Guess which 2 are automatically marked? Yeah, so 2, 3, 4, and 6 are all the written ones, which students don't do quite so well on. You can see here, task 4, 40% of people pass that task. So borderline is technically not a pass. So if you get all borderlines, you will not pass the exam because it's borderline slightly under 70%. So you can see it like most of these tasks, students don't really do so well on. So if you look at the Chief Examiner's report for task 4, you can see it's the typical sort of thing that students really, like, i.e. computational answers. You like bashing numbers through calculators. That's great because, we're all accountants, we all love our calculators, but we're looking for a bit more of that. As an aside, actually, whilst in the Chief Examiner's report, you can see what comes up and where. If you're a first interest student, we have this document online about what comes up and where, what you need to learn. So you can see so these are the learning outcomes taken from your lifelong learning portal. And you can see what you need to learn from those and what you don't. So students do well with computational answers. But the problem is you don't just want to be just churning out numbers, because you've got to remember, AAT are paying markers to mark these papers. Markers cost money, they get paid per paper. So if we were just wanting you to say, how much does this cost or whatever, they wouldn't be paying people to do that. They can do that with a automatically marked question. So this, we've got to remember, it's not numbers. The numbers are there to back up your answer and you to talk around, but that's not the main gist. If your answer is just a load of numbers, you're not going to get very many marks. Remember that. It's the computational type stuff is there, but it's not the main gist of it. And then the other bit, not being able to identify non-relevant and relevant costs. I mean, that's just a relatively minor thing. But what that means is a relevant cost is something that is a future outflow of cash that is going to be paid if you make this decision. So to put that in real terms, what that means is, say you're thinking about investing in producing, say you make tables for a living, and you think, actually, it'd be really, really cool if we made chairs as a completely new project. So if you are to make chairs, you have to buy a chair making machine. You can tell I'm making this up as I go along. So you have to buy a chair making machine. That's going to cost you money. You're going to have to buy a leg making machine. I'm really clutching at straws now. However, if that machine is going into your factory that you're going to pay the rent for anyway, your decision to go into making chairs, the factory rent is irrelevant. You're going to pay that anyway. So that's a non-relevant cost. Whereas if you were going to buy a chair making machine, that's obviously a relevant cost, because if you don't go into making chairs, you won't need to pay that amount. So, and then the other bit is, say you have already done some research into making chairs, whether you do go into chairs or not, that cost has already been spent. So that's not a relevant cost. That is a sunk cost. So what we're looking for between something to be a relevant cost is a future incremental cash inflow or outflow that is dependent on the decision that you make. If you're always going to get that money in, or you're always going to have to pay that money out, it's not relevant, because whether you make this decision or not, it makes the difference, really. So that's the difference between relevant and non-relevant costs. It's the sort of thing that the examiner does like in this task. Kind of thing. Cool. So let's get cracking. Let's look at, is this the same thing as a non-financial cost? No, it's not the same as a non-financial cost or benefit. So, so what relevant costs are future incremental cash outflows, whereas, and so it is financial, whereas a non-financial cost would be something like damage to your reputation, which is obviously a bad thing. It's going to damage your business, but it's not financial because there's no outflow of money. Cool. Right, let's have a look at task 4. So this is task 4. This is taken from our mock bank, mock 1 of our mock bank. So here you could get different types of costing models. And this question here is all about target costing. So we've got here the company's wanting to launch new saunas. So it's a new product, and we're looking at selling price and the product costs in more details. Now we want to earn a 20% net profit margin. So Christopher Ward has queried whether this approach is the correct approach. It's a competitive market with many existing businesses already selling them at a competitive price. And he's attended a conference about target costing. Look at him. I suggest this is considered a costing approach for new saunas. So we've been given the standard cost cards for the sauna. So we currently are planning, if I change, I don't like purple, we're currently planning to sell it for £4,500. However, the average market price is £4,295. And given that it is a competitive market and many products are going to sell them at a competitive price, we're not really in a position, as it currently stands, to charge more than that. So the first question is, explain target costing and explain why this approach may be appropriate for the new saunas. So this question here is taken from our mock. When you registered, you should have been sent a link to download this. If not, if you email aat@fi.co.uk, they'll sort this question out. If you are a first intuition student, this is mock 1 from your folder. Yeah, this is task 4. You can see here. So target costing is where we start with the price. Mock 2. I don't know why Anne did. I think Anne did mock 2 last week because there was a specific type of question. I'll get it sent out. I'll send this out tomorrow with the recording. So don't worry about that. I'll get it sent out tomorrow. So target costing is where we start with the price, and the price then starts to dictate what we can spend on it. I'll write that down. PDSY mock 1. So we start with the price, and that's the bit that's fixed. And then from there, we want to take off our required profit because you want to make a profit. Then once you've taken off your profit, you're then left with the amount of money you can spend on your costs. And remember, back to decision control, you might be given what the variable costs were, and you have to say, well, this is what we can spend on fixed costs. Or you might be given the fixed costs and say, this is what we're going to spend on variable costs. But we're not going to go in as much depth here with professional Synoptic. So the reason why it might be appropriate here is saunas. I don't know much about saunas, but a sauna's a sauna. It's not quite so easy to differentiate yourself from the market. It's not like cars where you can buy a car for 20 grand and you can buy a car for 200,000. You're not going to pay 10 times the amount as any sauna. So the price is quite competitive. So the issue is, to be profitable, is what are your costs? It's a fairly relatively standard product. So that's what it is. And that's why it might be appropriate. Now, remember, it's 3 marks. So top marks for someone who can tell me how many minutes you should spend per mark in a PDSY question? Oh, someone was right. Who was that? Colleen is right. It is 1.8 minutes per mark. So it's 180 minutes. It's 3 hours. There are only 100 marks available. So each mark should be 1.8 minutes, or it's nigh on 2 minutes. So you've got to get out of the mindset of, so for example, budgeting. So budgeting is a 2.5 hour exam. There's 160 marks. So you can see more marks available, less time. So you've got to work a lot harder for your marks. So if you got 3 marks here, you should be spending nigh on 6 minutes on this. So that's target costing. So we start with the price, we take off our profit. That leaves us with our amount of money we can spend on our costs. And why might it be appropriate here? Because we're not really in a position to change the price. Therefore, to be profitable, we need to start looking at the cost. And can we cover our costs? So we've been asked to calculate the target cost and cost gap, kind of giving the answer away that there might be a cost gap, and explain what we can do to do this. So if I get my pen, so we're going to have to go with the market price. So it's going to be £4,295. So that is our selling price. What's the next thing we need to take off there? Or the first thing we need to take off there, sorry. Yeah. The next bit is our profit. Because we want to make a profit. It shouldn't be we take off our costs and then whatever's got left is profit. Because if you're not making a profit, why are you doing it? Really? So profit is the main thing. So we want to take a 20% profit. So 4,295 times 0.2 gives us profit, of £859. So we take that off. 4,295 minus 859 gives us 3,436. So that's how much we can spend on our costs. However, what's the problem? Anyone spot the problem? Yeah, so our costs, 2,120 plus 420 plus 200 plus 8 plus 860 gives us costs of £3,600. So our cost gap, i.e. the amount of cost that we can't cover, is 3,436. So we've got 164 is the cost gap. Now, so that is, I would say I'd give a couple of marks, 2.5 maybe for that in a 5-mark question. Churning out loads of numbers is not really we're looking at it. So we've got £164 that we can't cover. So then we've been asked, which is the more interesting bit, I feel, what action can Horizon Hot Tubs take to deal with this cost gap? Any suggestions? And this is why it's human math. You can come up with anything, and as long as it's sensible, feasible, and not completely daft, it's fine. Cool. Yeah, we've got some good questions here. So, and as a side, remember, this is sort of level 4, and we're looking for that little bit, taking it like a little bit further. So when we say reduce costs, you're entirely right. But what we're looking for is how would you do that? Because in a perfect world, no, you'd go to a business, you're a business consultant, and the business says, I want to make more money. And you're like, oh, just reduce your costs. They're probably going to be looking for a bit more out of you. They're paying you for sort of advice. So, what other could you do? So, yeah, bulk buy discounts, as long as you're hitting those volumes. What could you do if you weren't hitting those volumes? That is, I'm going to come back to that one, Adina. That is a cracking answer. And Alessio, yeah, two really good things. So, in fact, there's loads of good answers. So, remove anything that doesn't add value. So, if you're doing stuff that the customers honestly don't care if you do it or not, think, why do I do it? If it doesn't mean that people are going to buy less or want to pay less, if you can not spend the money on your production or something, say it comes in a nice box, or it's got this really nice instruction manual, say, and people are like, it's a sauna, you just walk in, it doesn't need an instruction manual. You can stop doing that if it doesn't add value, but you want to be careful. You don't want to remove something that does add value. Now, Adina's come up with a really good answer. Value analysis. Look at everything you do and look for areas that, do we need to do that? Do we need to do this? Where can we not cut corners, but reduce costs without damaging our product or the perceived value that customers get from our product? Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, that's a good one. Reduce costs through in-house production. Would that be cheaper? That's probably a whole different project. You'd have to go down to argue, is that cheaper? Is it not? But that's another good suggestion. What else have we got? Use, better suppliers, cheap suppliers. And the profit part is 20% of the sales price. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. So, don't you come up with it? What do customers want out of it? Another thing, value engineering, can make it cheaper. Really good answers. So, what can we get rid of? What can we not do? Could we make it out of a thinner material, ever so slightly? Could you make it abroad? Maybe. Who knows? What's the other thing you could do to stop the cost gap? So, yeah, so they're all good things. But what I was getting at is, if the costs are what they are and you can't take out any more costs, yeah, Asha, what can you do to increase selling price? So we're not looking for you to say, stick the price up, because as soon as you do that, it's a competitive market. No one's going to pay it. What could you do to get that price up? Yeah. Yeah, Lindsay, free service package, anything like that, it's a sensible thing. Yeah, Brittany, yeah, you need, but we need sort of things you could justify. How is your product better? You could sell it on your green credentials, maybe. Don't know. It's wood's made out of sustainable wood. I don't know. Do something, yeah. But as long as offer a warranty, 3-year warranty versus 1-year warranty, anything that makes your product perceived to be more valuable than your competitors, therefore you can put that price up. And then, so the costs stay the same, but if your price goes up, you will also be covering that cost gap. Yeah, Monica, some really good answers there. And then the other one that I saw, I thought was a good answer, but it would be down my list of things I'd suggest to a client, is reduce your profit margin. Is it a thing that you might have to accept a lower profit? Because, 20% is good, but is it still better to make 15% than not? But you've got to then balance that up. Now, is your time worth going into saunas if they're going to be low margin, versus is there another product or range or market you could go into that would get you your required 20%? So you could maybe do that. But the first two I would suggest in an answer and to anyone is get your costs down or your sales price up, or in perfect will, both. And then lastly, like Pat says, the other answer is, if it can't be done, don't do it. Really? Cool. So there's like loads and loads of good answers there. And that's what we're looking for. There isn't a set answer. I don't know what our model answers are, whatever. As long as it's feasible, sensible, and reasonable, you could suggest it. There is no, well, there is wrong answers, let's be honest. There are wrong answers to this. But as long as your answers are sensible, you've got to give you the marks. So, you've just got to make sure that you are answering all parts of the question. So here, the cost gap isn't particularly all that interesting. What we've done is just identify there as a cost gap, which then nicely leads into the next bit of what can we do to address that, which is way more what we're more interested in this unit. Cool. But the reason why I'm using the average market price is because it's a really competitive market and there's lots of people out there selling at a competitive price. So you could come up with your figure and that's great. But if other people are undercutting you and there's no justifications why you would charge more, you wouldn't do that. So target costing, the price dictates everything else. No, that 20% is specific to this question here. Any other target costing question could have any other percentage. Don't do that. Yeah, it is a relatively small gap. It's not the be all and end all. And the other bit, I mean, you could just absorb it into your profit. I mean, I don't know what percentage that would work out as profit. It's probably not far off 20%. Really, it's another revenue stream. It's 16%. Or yeah, it's not bad. Cool. Any questions on that before we move on? Cool. Right. The next bit, we've been, Christopher's also shared a handout we've seen at the conference. 4 perspectives of the balanced scorecard. So this comes from budgeting. So you'll need your budgeting decision are the ones that the vast majority of knowledge comes from. This question. Yes, sorry, we have done question 1, but don't worry, it was recorded and the recording will be sent out after this. So here we've been given some information of the business's performance. And these questions here, I don't know how my head works, but I also have to sort of make it doubly clear in my head. This is December 31. This is 31st December. This is the 30th of September. So it goes back in time. So this one here is the more recent figure. So time has gone that way. I always struggle to sort of see them in my mind. So the one on the left is the most recent figures. So we've been asked to discuss the performance of the sales team for the year ended 31st of December using the balanced scorecard. So we've got the four perspectives: the financial, customer, internal, and innovation. And what we want to do is give appraise the performance. So we're looking for good, we're looking for bad, how they've done. And remember, the mark scheme indicates how much time and what form our answers should take. So financial perspective, 1 mark. We want 1 decent mark. So so when it says 1 mark, if you just put the word good, you won't get any. If you just said, oh, this was really good, you still would only get maybe half a mark. This is PDSY. We want a good point and say why it's relevant. So customer perspective, we'll be looking for 2 well-explained points. It won't be 1 well-explained point. You've got to work harder for your marks in this unit. So financial perspective, we only want 1, there's only 1 mark, but it needs to be, yes, they do give half marks, Katie. But then when you get results, it's rounded up anyway. Cool. So what do you think we can look for in that's going to affect our revenue figure? And there's a few things you could actually mention here, but what could you say? Now, again, you might need your calculator, but yeah, units sold. I mean, now the things I've got to assume that hot tubs probably sell more for a basic service. I don't know. Did you all check out PQ magazine, actually? Did it just come out last week? That's my article on my thoughts on Horizon hot tubs and hot tubs. My thoughts that I wouldn't want a hot tub. But yeah, I would say hot tubs. Yeah, we could go with sales. Now, someone else made a really good, and I thought it was quite interesting. Alessia has made a good point. Returns. Returns also affect your revenue. So here we've had 2 returns this quarter versus 3 last quarter. But we sold more hot tubs this quarter versus last quarter. So what I would do is look at that is, yeah, Colleen mentioned it as well. So look at it, so you calculate it. So returns, 2, I'm sure I'll be able to do it in my head, but I've been working all day. 2 divided by 50. So returns, 4% of returns are coming back. Whereas previously, 3 divided by 45 was 7%. So we've got less returns, which is really good because there's no point. Laura did read my article in PQ magazine. Cool. Lost calls also. Cool. So yeah, returns have gone down. So there's no point making sales if they're just coming back. So returns are down. Now, you would want to put this into proper sentences because that's really a down from 7% to 4%. So that means we get to keep more of the revenue that we make. So this, and then, so that's the point. Why is it relevant? So we make, I'll move that so I can actually write clearly. Here we go. And then I know it's obvious, but you will get marks for this, which will then increase profit. It's a bit like, you know, like labour rate variances. Oh, we had to pay overtime. I know it's obvious, but you'll get the marks. We have to pay overtime, which is paid at a higher rate, which will then reduce profit. So just take it in. What's happened? Why is it relevant? Which is we keep more revenue that we make. And what's the effect for the business? It will increase profit. So that's it really for financial perspective. It's 1 mark. And here we've got one, which we've made a point. Why it's relevant. What does it mean? So the next bit is customer perspective. So what figures here, or what factors could we look at to assess how well the sales team have done with regards to the customer perspective? Yeah, I would definitely look at complaints. What else have we got? Complaints. Calls. Yeah. Look at that. What else? I mean, in these questions, you could very well, there's lots of options, but just complaints. Lead times extended. Did it say that? I think that is sales leads made, or sales leads that have come in rather than lead time. Lost calls, complaints, on-time deliveries. Again, yeah, that would hack me off if I've got that. Yeah, they're all the same. We've got plenty there. So we've got 3 things. Now we've got 2 marks. So what we're looking for here is not bang, 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 3 things we can look at. It's not particularly interesting. What we're looking for is 2 well-explained points. So we've got to pick 2. Doesn't make any difference. We'll just choose one. Yeah, I mean, could you write up and mention all? If I'm honest, I wouldn't write a whole load of things, but I'm only going to explain 2. I would just explain too, because then the other thing is then it comes across, you've got this scattergun approach that you just chuck in, here's a lot of stuff that could be a problem. Some of it's got to be right. You need to be sort of quite confident in your answer. This is one of the things that is wrong. This is why. This is another thing. This is why. So yeah, don't throw the wall, see what sticks. You need to be like, because at the end of the day, normally when we come to marketing sort of things is, say it says identify 3 weaknesses and you give 5. We're only going to look at the first 3 because you're just sticking it at the wall and see what sticks. So we've got complaints. So you can see complaints. They have, 3 complaints divided by 50 sales. So that's 6%. Whereas before, I don't know what that would work out, divided by 45, 2.2%. So you can see complaints have gone up. Bear with me, I've got a big, fat, thick pen, not very much space. Up. So, what does that mean for the business? Yeah, unhappy customers. And what then is the cost to that? Yeah, there's so many questions, but I think I saw the one I was looking for. It'd be reduced repeat business. Now, I'm not saying that like you buy a new sauna every week, but if you wanted a service or you wanted something like that, you think, I'm not going back to that company. Loss of customers, bad reputation, that sort of thing. So you would lose repeat business. Now, the other thing I would sort of say is, what could be a driver of this? Could you link it to other things? Yeah, I mean, it could be that it was late. You could say this could be driven by that. So you've got like late deliveries. Again, so from the returns. So late deliveries, we've identified it. What would be the problem for this? So what could be the implication for the business for this? Well, yeah, I mean, that's actually the one I wasn't thinking of, but that's a really good answer. And that actually links back to the scenario. So I assume you've all read the Horizon Hot Tub scenario. I once had a question where someone said to me, before your exam, is it a good idea to read the scenario? And I'm like, yes, it is. But this is actually one of the things it says in the scenario, that it's gone from customers paying up front to customers paying on delivery. And then if delivery is really, really late, the time you get paid is way down the line. So late deliveries, later payment. And so obviously, late payment, but let's take it a little bit further is, so we're going to take this one, reduced cash flow. So that's a really good point. Didn't think of that one. That wasn't where I was going anyway. But again, take it that little bit further. So your working capital exactly is sure. So late deliveries, late payment, therefore reduce cash flow. And then I would sort of say, well, why are we getting late delivery? Yeah, It could be all manner of these things. Now, the fact you haven't got the product, you can't get it to the people. Or Lindsay is actually the point I was going to make. Is it the sales team giving unrealistic expectations? It could be all manner of things, but as long as you come up with a sensible suggestion, what's caused it, what's the impact, and what's the actual cost to the business, i.e., a lack of cash, you want to pick up all the marks. Yeah, this is a great thing. So that's customer perspective. We've got 2 points, and we've explained them well, and and we've explained the impact to the business. So the next one is internal business. So on the balanced scorecard, this is how efficient the internal processes for the business are. So what 3 figures on here could we use as a measure to see how well businesses have done? Katie has got the magic number. Yeah, there's a few things we can come up here. So we've got sales leads. Now, I would actually say sales leads in itself, it's gone up 33%. So I would say, actually, if we look at how well the sales team are doing, leads in absolute terms, lead numbers are up. So they're doing well there. They are generating leads, which, all things being equal, should lead to increased sales. So, I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, you might have the best sales team in the world who can sell snow to penguins or whatever. But if you're not generating leads, that's irrelevant. So leads are people who've inquired about a hot tub. But then the next bit, which someone then did mention, is whilst we're generating leads, the issue is our conversion. So last quarter, we sold 45 hot tubs on 120 leads, which was 38%. Whereas now we sold 50 hot tubs on 160 leads. So that conversion rate has fallen to 31%. So leads are great, and it has meant that we've sold more hot tubs than previously, but our conversion rate has fallen. Cool. So that's what's happened. Don't just stop there. What's the issue with having a conversion rate that's falling? So our conversion rate if for every sale that we're getting, the percentage, every lead that we're getting, the percentage that we convert into sales is less. What's the issue there? Well, yeah, Laura, that could be causing it, but what's the cost to the thing? Yeah, exactly. So conversion rates are down, so I'm to do more work, which is then increased cost, and our sales, we've got 50 and we've got 45. So we're not getting any more of that many more sales for doing a lot more work. And the other thing, there may well be a cost in generating these leads as well. So our costs are going up, time spent on it, for revenue staying the same. And a driver of that might be our reputation. If what people are like on Facebook nowadays, people might write, "Don't buy from Horizon Hot Tubs." Then hot tubs don't turn up for 3 months, whatever. So they might inquire, do a bit of research, and go, "Not buying from them." So here we've got, what's the issue? What does it mean for the business? And what might have caused it? So we need to do one more, because we've got 3 marks here. What else could we do to assess? I think someone's mentioned it, so I'm going to say it anyway. Lost calls. So lost calls are, people ring up, they want to buy a hot tub. That is the last thing you want to do. Is I'm a paying customer, and if you don't pick up the phone, it's not great, really. So if you think lost calls, I'm going to squeeze this in here. Lost calls. So lost calls have gone from up. I mean, it's gone from 1 to 5. What percentage increase is that? Yeah, it's 500% increase. So it's gone up from 1 to 5. I mean, 5 doesn't sound like mega things, but if you think actually, even our conversion rate, you've got five missed calls. If we're converting 30% of them, that's 1.5 hot tubs we would have probably sold that we've lost out on purely because we didn't answer the phone. I don't know what a hot tub costs, a couple of £1,000 maybe. I don't know. You get those cheap blow up ones in Aldi, don't you? Oh, not a fan of hot tubs. So, even our conversion rates, if we'd answered those 5 calls, we would have, on average, sold an extra 1.5 hot tubs. So actually, it's not great. And what could be a driver of those missed calls? Yeah, it could be all of them. Great. Lost calls is missed revenue. So what's the issue? Revenue. I've got a Y on there. Yeah, there's loads of things what could be costing. Basically, we haven't got enough people for the calls coming in, which means one or two things. Not enough people, too many calls. So, yeah, you could say shortage in staff, people sick, low morale, the fact that we have to generate loads of leads because our conversion rates have gone down. We're spending our time dealing with complaints. We're busy doing other things. We're selling less profitable things. All those are equally as valid. There's not one's better than the other. And that's due to busy staff. So again, we've got 3 points. What is the issue? What's the effect? And what's the driver of it? So the other thing is, I would say, is we're also looking at horizon hot tubs. So in one of the questions, the question is, oh, this didn't happen because someone's overworked. What's the problem? And it's like, oh, this person's overworked. And you're like, good for them, but it sucks to be them. We're looking at the problem for horizon hot tubs. If that person's overworked, is they're not doing as much as they could, or we're missing out on revenue. Remember, we're looking at horizon hot tubs, the business, and the staff are I want to say tools, but part of the business. So it's like, what is the cost of the business? So, the cost here isn't staff that are overworked. The cost is that staff are not answering the phone calls and we're missing out on revenue. Yeah, I mean, that lack of rewards and incentives, again, that could be, all these things are perfectly valid, which again, why we come down to human markers, because we want to, there isn't, just because it's not in the model answers, doesn't say it's wrong. As long as you can justify it, explain why it's relevant, explain what the cost is, it'll be fine. Cool. Last one, innovation and learning, only 1 mark. So what can we assess as about innovation and learning, developing and progressing and moving on? Yeah, Steph pretty much nailed that one. The new premium service pack. Now that has gone from 1 to 6. It's a new thing. It's gone well. Let's be honest, we've slated the sales team and the sales process most of the time. Yeah, it's gone really well. So that's where we're going to put it down. In fact, well, not right down. So that's what we've identified. However, what is the effect of that on the business? Yeah. Let's get it down there. We've got more space than the one we only need one answer for. Premium service. So that's going to lead to increased revenue. Hopefully a higher margin, if you're not, while you're doing it. And you can see here, we've got 4 less basic services. We've actually got 5 more premium services. So not just have we swapped basic services to premium services, we are just generally selling more services. So what could have caused that? Yeah, what have we got? So explaining training, good comes follow-ups, upselling. I also love upselling. Training. Yeah, marketing. It could be extolling the virtues of the new product. It could be staff are more knowledgeable about product knowledge. Been more training in terms of technical ability, training in terms of just selling. It could be all of them. Now, what I would do in this question here, I wouldn't give all these different things. I would give one answer for this. I'm going to go with training. So again, you don't want to give like a scattergun approach. Training. So we want to identify a point. We want to say what the effect is to the business and what has driven that. What's the cause? Happy customers. Very well could be happy customers. But one thing I would say about saying happy customers is let's look at the overall picture. I don't think you could argue that we have happy customers. So always try and look at the overall picture. Buying more stuff could be due to happy customers, but look at the overall picture of this, probably not. Yeah, other competitors not selling this. Yeah, if it's something that's new to the market, it could just be that we've got something that someone else doesn't have. Actually, Hayes made a good point. What we're looking at is number of premium service packages sold. We've not actually been told as to what we sold it for. So, it could be discounts as well. So it could be loads of things, really. But again, we're just looking for one sensible, well-explained product. Cool. And that is task 4. What do we think to that? Doable. Yeah, it's just getting, for want of a better phrase, you need to get in the game. You got to play the game, give the examiner what they want. And you've got to remember, these exams are marked by different people. So there is a very strict mark scheme to make sure that one person over there isn't giving out marks willy-nilly and the other one's failing everyone. So it's very, very strict. So you need to be very, very clear that you are giving the examiner exactly what it wants in terms of what does the question want. So it wants to discuss. So you've got to be very, very clued up on your verbs. So if you say identify, we're looking for very short answers. But if it's explain or discuss, we're looking for longer answers. And the other one is evaluate. Now, evaluate is quite a key one, because in that one, we're looking for good and bad things. So one of the questions comes up in task 2 is evaluate the current budgetary process, which is a fixed budget. Now, fixed budgets are rubbish, because you're just like, oh, we based the budget on selling 100,000 units. We sold 300,000 units. Therefore, our sales variance is good. I was like, well, not really, because you just sold more. It doesn't say you've done better. So fixed budgets are rubbish. And students tend to go down the route of, let's just slate fixed budgets. But if it's an evaluate type question, always try and give the other side of it. Fixed budgets are cheap and easy to do. So always we're trying to give a balanced argument. So here we need to discuss. And remember, always keep it, your mind is about the business. What's the implication, the costs and the benefits to the business? And then what's caused it? Or if asked, what can you do about it? Where's my mouse gone? I'm glad it makes it more possible. Yeah, and again, be very strict with your mark scheme. So 1 mark, one well-explained point. I don't want loads of well-explained points, because the first one's only going to get you any marks. And I don't want 1 point that's not explained. 1 well-explained point, move on and look at that, everything else. These sessions make it look really, it's just one of those things. I mean, if I had to give, spend the next 3 minutes or whatever it is telling you about, the key things to bear in mind, it's getting to know what the examiner wants. And one thing I see time and time again is task 2. You'll be given a budget and a set of actual results, almost certainly, and you'll be asked to assess the budgetary procedure. And students, more often than not, go down the mistake of saying, oh, the company didn't meet the budget because of this, and the company didn't meet the budget because of that, and the company beat the budget. That's not what you've been asked. You've not been asked to assess how well the business has performed. You've been asked to assess how well the budget was put together. Was it a good budget? Was the things put in there realistic? And was it never going to meet the budget? So in task 2, make sure you do that. Task 3, weaknesses. Again, this is very similar to what we've done tonight. As long as you can come up with a sensible weakness, explain why it's a weakness and what is the cost for the business, they've got to give you the marks for it. And only then give a recommendation to how to fix it if it asks for it. And you've got 5 weaknesses. Don't give me 2 weaknesses in 1 box, because you're only looking for 1 weakness that's well explained in each box. So you're effectively giving away a weakness. So that's task 3. Task 4 we've just been through. Task 5 is ratios. Ratios, we've just seen on the Chief Examiner's report, is what students do well on. Ratios are going to be in there. Ratios are in budget and decision statements. If you're not clued up on ratios, you're in a world of trouble, because that's where students pick up a load of marks. So make sure you're clued up on ratios. And then task 6 is either cost-benefit analysis or SWOT. So the thing we hear about SWOT a lot is strengths and weaknesses really need to be internal. Opportunities and threats need to be external. So if you've got a poor credit control procedure, that's not a threat. That's an internal weakness. Whereas exchange rates, competitors, they are external threats. Whereas having a good credit control procedure is a strength, it's an internal thing. Whereas opportunities is going to do stuff that you're not already doing external to the company. Yeah, and the last, before I get sort of questions, is if you get SWOT, you get SWOT, obviously. The other one is you might get is cost-benefit analysis, which could either be financial or non-financial. Like that. So financial, cost-benefit analysis, what we're looking for is, like we talked about right at the beginning, future incremental costs. So if you have to go and pay it anyway, whether you do this project or not, it's not relevant to the decision. It's only if you were to do this project, it means that you have to incur these costs or you get these benefits. And then you might get non-financial cost benefit analysis. That's thinking like, would it damage the brand? Would it get you into new markets that you've never been before? Would it retain customer loyalty? That sort of stuff that you can't put a monetary figure on. Did I say I have a video? No. It's in PQ magazine, which if you don't read, you probably should. But if I find it, I did write an article on it. Apologies if any of you do have a hot tub, but the first line of my article, I did say, I think hot tubs are gross, especially other people's. You don't know what we've been up to in it. Let me find it. There it is. Put this in the chat. That one bit. There we are. Cool. So that's my thoughts on hot tub. Massive, massive caveat to that. That's just me saying what might not happen. If I get it right, spot on. I've not cheated. It's just got lucky. If what I talk about there doesn't come up, I warned you. Right, questions. Yeah, so I've done that. Statements. Yeah, statements will be back. It'll be me next Thursday. We just took a break because we're doing Synoptic. So we've got advanced Synoptic as well as professional Synoptic at the moment. So we're just a bit rammed at the moment. But advanced Synoptic week is next week. Thank the Lord. So then that will go and statements is coming back. Doing high hot tubs could make more range for hot tubs. Yeah, that's another opportunity. Different hot tubs into different market. Reposition yourself as a premium hot tub provider. Have like flashing lights in it and underwater sound systems or whatever you do in hot tubs. Cool. I will ask to get the recording for last week sent out. As well, next week, what tasks next week? To be honest, I have no idea because Anne was doing all these and then she was sick this morning and suddenly I'm doing PDSY tonight. I imagine it will be task 6 because that's another one students do struggle with. But don't hold me to that. Anne will definitely be back next week. Customers, external or internal? Customers themselves are external. How you deal with them is internal though. Lukewarm, stagnant pond. I said something else in the meeting once, and it turned out that everyone else at first, if you had hot tubs, made yourself look a right pillock. I'm not even going to say that. That's too rude even for here. But yeah, lukewarm, stagnant, something pond. Yeah, get that out. Get that out. Previous recording is there. Paul's giving it in the chat box. Will this be meeting posted on your YouTube channel? Oh yeah, probably should. Well, I'll cut this bit out. Yes, this is going on our YouTube channel to be reviewed as well. Cool. Yeah, it will be 6. Target costing, in short, is basically you've got a price. That price is the price you've got to charge because that's all the market will take. From there, you take off your required profit, and then what you've got left is what you've got to spend on costs, which may or may not cover your costs. If it doesn't, you've got to figure out how you get it to do it. As Jess well explained there. Cool. Jones. I can't scroll fast enough for this. And we'll be back next week. So if I don't see you, good luck for Synoptic week. I hope you all get it out of your lives because it's not a nice exam. And if anyone is in statements next week, I will see you there.